The envelope slammed onto my kitchen counter with a force that rattled the cabinets. My brother Marcus stood over it, a smug expression twisting his features. "The farm's going to auction," he declared, almost savoring the words. His lawyerly tone cut through the morning air like a blade. Beside him, my mother leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, whispering something to my aunt that I couldn't hear clearly. Judging by the expression on her face, it was probably something about me finally learning a lesson, a punishment long overdue. 3 hours of driving from the city had led them here, not to celebrate or to advise, but to witness my supposed downfall in person. "You should have repaid Dad's loan when you had the chance," Marcus added, tapping the court notice like a gavel of final judgment. What they didn't know, and what no one outside my small circle of trusted clients had any clue about, was that the struggling farm they were so eager to claim was the exclusive supplier to every Michelin-starred restaurant in the tri-state region, with contracts worth more than Marcus would ever earn in his law office in a lifetime. The supposed loan of $35,000 barely scratched the surface of my farm's true value. My Green Valley organic farm generated over $2 million annually. Yet that fact was invisible to them, ignored entirely because it didn't fit their narrative of me as a failure. "You have 30 days to vacate," Marcus continued, his voice sharp, cold, and precise. "The county assessor will arrive Friday to evaluate the property for auction. Whatever remains after the debt is settled goes into an escrow account. Judging by this place, I doubt there'll be much." He gestured dismissively out the window, at the neat rows of greenhouses, the sprawling fields, the climate-controlled facilities I had built from scratch to grow specialty crops that top chefs paid top dollar for. To Marcus, it was just dirt and plastic. "I never agreed to a loan," I said softly, keeping my voice steady. Mom didn't look at me. "Dad's estate records indicate otherwise. He lent you $35,000 6 years ago to help start this business. Interest has accrued. You now owe $47,000, and I, as executor, am authorized to collect." I held her gaze. "Dad gave me that money as a gift. He wanted to invest in my dream. There was no loan agreement. You know it." Her expression remained unreadable. "He enabled your foolishness. I am correcting it. By taking your farm, I am showing you the consequences of your choices." I wanted to scream, to demand they see reason, to show them contracts, client testimonials, revenue statements, the undeniable proof of everything I had accomplished. But I knew better. Words never worked with my family. Only irrefutable evidence made them pause. And Friday, the assessor would see everything. The farm had been my rebellion and my redemption. After leaving a promising corporate marketing career, I had dedicated 6 years to building Green Valley Organic from the ground up. Marcus called it a midlife crisis. Mom suggested therapy. Dad had quietly handed me $35,000 and told me to prove them wrong. When he passed 2 years later, he never saw the farm's full success, but I carried his belief with me through every setback. The early days were brutal. Crops failed, pests devoured seedlings, and weather wiped out months of work in hours. But each mistake became a lesson, and each challenge molded me. I realized that competing with commodity farms was pointless. Mass-produced, crops always undercut small operations. My solution was to specialize, to grow ultra-premium, rare produce that couldn't be replicated. Heirloom tomatoes, delicate microgreens harvested by hand, and unique seeds sourced from collectors around the world became my specialty. Green Valley Organic was no longer just a farm. It was a culinary powerhouse. The Green Fork in Manhattan, Seaside in Boston, Harvest Moon in Philadelphia, along with 12 Michelin-starred restaurants, were loyal clients. Add another 30 high-end establishments, specialty grocers, and private chefs, and the farm was booked 18 months in advance. Chefs signed multi-year contracts guaranteeing orders. And the rarest crops, purple carrots, golden beets, exotic garlic, sold for prices that made conventional farmers faint. Yet the farm remained under the radar. I valued discretion and privacy. No press coverage, no social media posts, no farm tours. Clients demanded secrecy, and I obliged. The outside world, including my family, saw a small, struggling farm. The reality was a multi-million-dollar operation, meticulously crafted over years. Friday morning arrived crisp and clear. Marcus pulled up in a shiny black sedan, overdressed for a farm, while Mom followed in a tailored coat, her expression smugly satisfied. Aunt Patricia tagged along, likely to witness my humiliation firsthand. At exactly 9 a.m., a county vehicle rolled up the gravel driveway. The assessor, Thomas Brennan, a seasoned property evaluator, emerged clipboard in hand, surveying the farm with quiet professionalism. "Miss Delacroix, I'm here for the court-ordered assessment," he said. "Of course, please examine whatever you need." Marcus immediately inserted himself. "The property is about 40 acres, some outbuildings, basic irrigation. Comparable farmland sells for $8,000 per acre. Should be straightforward." Thomas glanced at him, unamused. "And you are?" "Marcus Delroy, attorney for the estate." "My mother is the executor." "Understood. Thank you for the context, but I'll need to conduct my own evaluation." Hours passed as Thomas methodically measured, photographed and inspected every greenhouse, irrigation system, and controlled environment facility. Marcus grew restless. "It's just a farm. Why is this taking so long?" Thomas didn't look up. "It's a specialized agricultural operation. I need to verify infrastructure, equipment, seed collections, and client value. These things matter. Standard valuations won't suffice." By the second hour, his demeanor shifted. Calls were made, notes taken, re-examinations of areas he had already inspected. Something was changing in the air. Marcus squirmed, finally asking, "What's going on?" Thomas ignored him. He motioned me to my office. "May I review your client records?" I led him inside, pulling out the folder of contracts, orders, and payment histories. Eyes widening, Thomas read through the first few pages, then the next, then froze. "You supply the green fork?" he asked, disbelief tinged with admiration. "Yes. And Seaside, Harvest Moon, 12 Michelin-starred restaurants in total, plus another 30 high-end clients." Thomas stepped outside to make a call, gesturing toward the greenhouses with obvious astonishment. Marcus appeared at my office door. "What's going on?" "You're about to learn how badly you miscalculated," I said, voice steady but sharp. Thomas's voice carried faintly through the office window as he spoke urgently into his phone, gesturing at the greenhouses, occasionally glancing back at me with incredulity. Marcus, fuming, hovered near the doorway. "What is in that folder?" he demanded. "My business records," I replied calmly. "You have no right to inspect them. You're attempting to seize my property based on a claim that has no basis. This is none of your business." Marcus's jaw tightened. "The loan exists. You owe the estate. You can't just hide behind paperwork." I shook my head. There was never a loan. Dad gave me the money as an investment in my dream, not as a debt. You've misrepresented everything. Mom stepped closer, her voice cold and sharp. That money is part of the estate. We have every right. You have no rights here. I cut her off, my voice growing firmer. And in a few minutes, you're going to see exactly how badly you've underestimated me. Thomas returned, his face flushed and animated. Miss Delacroix, I've spoken with my supervisor. The property's value is far beyond our initial estimate. This is not a struggling farm. Marcus's smugness faltered. How much higher? Thomas looked at him, then at Mom, and finally back at me. Your farm supplies premium organic produce to all the Michelin-starred restaurants in the tri-state area. Your contracts alone are worth millions. The infrastructure, specialized equipment, and proprietary seed collection add significant value beyond just the land. Your annual revenue exceeds $2 million. The room fell silent. Marcus's confident posture slumped slightly. Mom stared at the floor, her composed mask cracking. I've been assessing properties for over 20 years, Thomas continued. I've never seen anything like this. The greenhouses are commercial-grade, climate-controlled systems. Your seed library contains varieties that are essentially priceless to collectors. And your client list. This reads like a directory of the finest restaurants in America. Whoever told you this farm was failing was either ignorant or intentionally misleading. Marcus opened his mouth but found no words. He glanced at Mom, who avoided his gaze entirely. Based on my preliminary evaluation, Thomas concluded, the property is worth between $4 and $6 million. The foreclosure action will likely be dismissed. The claimed debt is a fraction of the actual value, and the legitimacy of the claim itself is now in serious question. He collected his materials and left without another word. Silence stretched across the room like a taut rope ready to snap. Finally, I spoke, my voice cutting through the tension. There was never a loan. Dad gave me $35,000 as a gift. He wrote about it in his journal. I have the entry dated March 15th, 6 years ago. He stated explicitly that it was an investment in my dream, not a debt. Here. I handed the journal to Marcus. He read the entry slowly, disbelief and rage flickering across his face. This is part of the estate records. You... Exactly, I interrupted, taking the journal back. If you had done your due diligence, you'd have found this years ago instead of coming here to humiliate me. Mom's face crumpled, but I did not soften. Leave my farm. Do not contact me again. Any further legal action or schemes will be met with every resource I have at my disposal. And as you've just seen, those resources are considerable. Marcus gathered his papers, muttering incoherently, and stormed out. Aunt Patricia followed behind, shell-shocked and silent. Mom lingered, her eyes searching mine for some sign of vulnerability. I never meant... she started. Yes, you did, I interrupted. Every word. You meant every judgment, every dismissal. You never believed in me. You only wanted control, and when control failed, you sought to destroy. She turned away, defeated. I am your mother. You're the woman who tried to steal my livelihood to teach me a lesson. That's different from supporting me, Mom. Very different. I opened the door. Goodbye. She left. I closed it behind her and leaned against the frame, staring out at the greenhouses bathed in sunlight. Every row of crops, every controlled environment facility, every flourishing seedling stood as proof of years of perseverance, ingenuity, and unwavering belief. I had built this world from nothing, and now the court had recognized the truth. 6 weeks later, the foreclosure action was officially dismissed. The judge's ruling cited the lack of evidence supporting the claimed debt and highlighted my father's journal as critical proof. Marcus received a formal warning for filing a frivolous claim. Mom attempted to reach out twice, and I ignored both. Silence had served me well for 6 years, but I now understood its cost. I had hidden my success deliberately. Privacy had been paramount, discretion had been my shield. Letting my family believe I was failing had been a choice, a protective measure. But the outside world now needed to see what I had accomplished. I hired a publicist, agreed to interviews, and allowed food magazines to photograph my greenhouses and profile my operations. When the New York Times food section requested a feature on high-end farm-to-table sourcing, I said yes. The article ran 3 months later, showcasing Green Valley Organic with detailed photos, testimonials from Michelin-starred chefs, and a narrative of how I built a multi-million-dollar agricultural business from scratch. The headline read, "The Hidden Queen of Premium Produce." I sent a copy to my mother, not out of gloating, but so that the next time she spoke of me as a failure, the truth could speak for itself. Weeks later, Marcus sent me a letter. His words were hesitant, laced with regret. Sophie, I owe you an apology. Not a legal one, but a personal one. I believed what Mom told me without question. I never visited the farm, never asked about your work, never gave you the benefit of doubt you deserved. That's on me. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I see what you've built. Dad was right about you. I read his words twice before crafting my response, measured but firm. Marcus, you came to take my farm. You sided with Mom, you came here to watch me fail. Yet you admitted your error, something she still hasn't done. I am not ready to forgive you, but I am willing to watch you earn it. If you want to rebuild a relationship, you must put in the work. No shortcuts, no assumptions. Visit the farm. Meet the people who work here. Understand why this matters to me. Then we can talk. Your sister, whether you deserve me or not. Sophie. With the court's dismissal behind me, life at Green Valley Organic settled into a new rhythm. I no longer worked in the shadows, hiding my success. Instead, I embraced visibility, letting the world see what I had created. Articles, interviews, and features in prestigious culinary magazines transformed my once-hidden farm into a recognized powerhouse in the farm-to-table movement. The publicity didn't just satisfy a personal desire for acknowledgement, it was strategic. My clients valued discretion, but the industry needed to know the quality and uniqueness of my produce. The acclaim cemented Green Valley Organic as a brand synonymous with excellence. Despite all the accolades and media attention, I maintained my focus on the work that truly mattered, cultivating rare crops and fulfilling the exacting standards of chefs who demanded nothing less than perfection. Every morning, I walked the fields, inspecting seedlings, adjusting irrigation, and checking the climate-controlled greenhouses. The labor was relentless, but it was purposeful. This was my life, my passion, my legacy. Then came the letter from Marcus. His words, tinged with humility, reminded me that family ties were not so easily severed, even after betrayal. I kept my reply measured, emphasizing accountability. Relationships, I had learned, were earned, not assumed. By setting boundaries and requiring genuine effort, I was reclaiming not just my farm, but the respect that had been denied me for years. As spring deepened, the farm flourished in ways that even I hadn't anticipated. New orders arrived from high-profile clients, and the waiting list grew longer. My team, small but expertly trained, handled every task with precision, and their loyalty to the farm, and to me, was unwavering. I realized that in defending Green Valley Organic, I had also fortified a network of dedicated people who believed in the vision as much as I did. The public recognition brought opportunities I had never sought but could not ignore. Invitations to culinary panels, speaking engagements, and even consulting offers from other emerging farms began to pour in. I was cautious, selecting only those that aligned with my values and would allow me to maintain the quality and exclusivity my clients demanded. Green Valley Organic was not a farm that could be rushed or diluted. It was a craft, a legacy, a promise of excellence. Even with success, the past lingered. My mother's absence from my life was palpable, her attempts to reach out ignored. There was a certain satisfaction in knowing she could no longer dictate my path or diminish my achievements. Her absence was a reminder of the lessons I had learned about trust, boundaries, and the importance of believing in oneself when others refused to. Then came a turning point, a quiet, unassuming day that proved the true depth of my accomplishment. A renowned chef from New York, who had previously been on a waiting list for over a year, arrived unannounced. He stepped into my greenhouse, eyes wide with admiration, and exclaimed at the diversity of heirloom vegetables, the meticulous arrangement of crops, and the sheer abundance of rare produce. His words were more than praise. They were validation. "Miss Delacroix," he said, voice sincere, "this is beyond what I imagined. I've never seen anything like this on the East Coast. You've built something extraordinary." I smiled, feeling the weight of years of work lift ever so slightly. This was what mattered, the acknowledgement of my labor from someone who truly understood the craft. Recognition from my family had always been conditional and flawed. Recognition from peers and experts who appreciated the depth of my work was authentic, earned, and enduring. And then came Marcus, eventually. Months after his initial letter, he visited the farm, cautiously, almost timidly. He walked slowly, observing the greenhouses, the fields, and the team at work. I watched from a distance, letting him absorb the scale and sophistication of Green Valley Organic. He approached me finally, a mixture of awe and remorse in his eyes. "I underestimated you," he admitted quietly. "I judged without seeing. I assumed, and I was wrong. What you've built, it's incredible. I want to understand it, to learn from it, and maybe, in time, to rebuild some trust." I considered him carefully. Forgiveness, I knew, could not be granted lightly. It had to be earned. "Marcus," I said slowly, "if you want to rebuild a relationship, it will take work. You'll need to engage fully. Visit, learn, respect the people who make this possible, understand the vision. Only then can we start." He nodded, a gesture that seemed to contain both apology and commitment. It was a beginning, fragile but genuine. Life at the farm continued, each day a mix of intense labor, strategic growth, and measured exposure. I had learned the value of patience, resilience, and steadfast focus. Every decision was deliberate: which crops to grow, which clients to accept, and how to maintain the delicate balance between public recognition and private excellence. My father's faith had been the foundation, but my perseverance and strategy had built the structure that now stood resilient against every challenge. Months later, a major culinary magazine published a full feature on Green Valley Organic, highlighting not just the quality of the produce, but the story behind its creation, the vision, the obstacles, and the triumph over familial doubt and societal underestimation. The article painted a vivid picture: a farm that was no longer a secret, a woman who had turned dreams into a thriving enterprise, and the meticulous work that made it all possible. I mailed a copy to my mother. It wasn't for revenge or gloating, it was to set the record straight. The truth had a way of speaking louder than years of judgment or misguided assumptions. When she read it, She would see clearly, as the world now saw, that the daughter she had doubted and tried to control had not only succeeded but had redefined success on her own terms. Through all of it, one thing remained constant. Green Valley Organic was my creation, my legacy, and my proof that vision, determination, and integrity could triumph over doubt, deceit, and misunderstanding. My father had believed in me when no one else did. Now the world knew it too. Standing in the middle of the greenhouse complex, the sunlight streaming through the glass, I allowed myself a rare moment of reflection. Every challenge, every setback, every small victory had led to this point. I had honored my father's faith, defended my dream against unwarranted attacks, and turned a private success into a celebrated achievement. The farm, once underestimated and misunderstood, now stood as a beacon of possibility. And in that moment, I understood something essential. Success is not just about wealth or recognition, it's about integrity, vision, and the courage to stay true to one's path. The farm, my work, and my perseverance were living proof. Green Valley Organic was no longer just a farm. It was a statement, a triumph, and a promise kept. The quiet hum of the greenhouses, the vibrant colors of the crops, and the knowledge that the fruits of my labor had finally been recognized filled me with a deep, abiding satisfaction. For the first time in years, I felt complete, not because the world had acknowledged me, but because I had never stopped believing in me.